The Galactic Council chamber hung in the endless dark between galaxies, a perfect black sphere streaked with veins of silver light. Inside, the air hummed with restrained power. 1,000 alien delegates sat in tiered rings, their forms as varied as the stars they came from, some armored in chitin, others shimmering like liquid, a few barely visible, existing as shifting clouds of thought. At the center of it all, held in place by invisible magnetic fields, stood Captain Elias Rourke of Earth. Beside him, silent and still, were 2 human diplomats in simple gray uniforms. No armor, no weapons, just 3 humans alone in the heart of galactic judgment. The Archon of the Varel hegemony rose from his obsidian throne. His body was tall and segmented, his voice a deep vibration that made the very floor tremble. "Humanity," he boomed, "you have broken the eternal accord. Without warning, without cause, your warship struck 3 peaceful systems under Varel protection. You disabled defense grids, crippled command hubs, and vanished before responders arrived. Explain this act of aggression, or be erased from the star charts forever." All eyes turned to Rourke. Some glowed with fury. Others watched with cold curiosity. A few, like the luminary ambassador, a being of soft blue light wrapped in flowing membranes, leaned forward slightly as if sensing something unseen. Rourke did not look afraid. He stood straight, his face calm, his eyes steady. He even smiled, a small quiet thing that held no joy, only certainty. "You think we struck first," he said, his voice clear and calm, cutting through the heavy silence. "But you never saw the war coming." Before the Archon could respond, every screen in the chamber flickered to life. Not with human warships firing, not with explosions. Instead, grainy but undeniable footage played. Varel scout vessels cloaked in stealth fields drifting near Earth's outer colonies. They were planting devices, small dark pods that pulsed with unstable energy. Quantum destabilizers, illegal under every treaty, designed to trigger false seismic events, make it look like Earth colonies were collapsing from within. Perfect justification for a humanitarian intervention, which would never end. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The Cathari delegate, a many-limbed insectoid with mirrored eyes, clicked its mandibles in alarm. The luminary's light dimmed in shock. "This footage was captured by our deep space listening posts," Rourke continued, "disguised as asteroid miners. You never noticed them. You never noticed us watching." More footage followed. Encrypted Varel transmissions decoded by Earth's quantum AI. Orders from High Command: prepare soft annexation of Sol, neutralize human resistance through internal collapse, maintain appearance of peace until integration is complete. The Archon's segmented body stiffened. "This is fabrication. Human trickery." "Then explain this," Rourke said. The main screen shifted. It showed real-time sensor data from the Council's own defense grid. And there, blinking in red, was a human vessel, the Odyssey, already inside the supposedly impenetrable perimeter of the chamber itself. Not attacking, just present, silent, watching. Silence fell so deep it felt like the stars had stopped burning. Rourke stepped forward, the magnetic restraints releasing him with a soft hiss. No one stopped him. "For 50 years, Earth played by your rules," he said, his voice low but carrying. "We sent diplomats. We shared technology. We absorbed your insults, your condescension, your guidance. You called us children, wild, emotional, unpredictable. And you were right. We are emotional. We care about our people. We remember when someone tries to erase us." He looked around, meeting the eyes of delegates who had never truly seen humanity before. "You thought peace meant weakness, but peace is a choice. And sometimes, to protect it, you have to act before the knife reaches your throat." Flashbacks filled the chamber, not as images, but as shared neural impressions projected by Earth's diplomatic implants. They showed Earth's Strategic Defense Directorate in a hidden bunker beneath the Himalayas, scientists, soldiers, and analysts working in hushed urgency. They had detected the Varel plot months ago, tried to report it through official channels, but every message sent to the Council vanished, deleted by censors loyal to the hegemony. Diplomacy was dead, so they activated Project First Light, not a fleet, not a bomb, a network, stealth drones woven into comet tails, AI-driven decoys that mimicked asteroid belts, quantum-entangled comms that bypassed all known surveillance, and a single devastating truth. Humanity had learned to fight without being seen. The strikes against the Virel systems weren't random acts of war. They were precise, surgical. They hit only the command relays that controlled the destabilizers. They left civilian infrastructure untouched. They gave the Virel no time to react because Earth had already mapped their every move. "We didn't want war," Rourke said, "but we refused to be victims dressed in peace." The Archon finally spoke, his voice quieter now, laced with something like fear. "You risked galactic stability for suspicion." "No," Rourke corrected. "We preserved it. If you had succeeded, the hegemony would have controlled Sol, then the Luminari Rim, then the Cathari clusters. One peaceful annexation at a time. You weren't building peace. You were building an empire." The Luminari ambassador floated forward, their light pulsing gently. "The footage. It matches patterns we've seen in border systems. Unexplained collapses, always followed by Virel aid." They turned their glowing form toward the Archon. "Is this true?" The Archon said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Rourke looked up at the dome of the chamber where simulated stars glittered like cold eyes. "You called us to judgment," he said. "But maybe it's time the galaxy judged itself." Just then, a new alert flashed on the chamber's main screen. Not from Earth, from the outer rim of the Virel-controlled sector. A massive energy surge, something waking up, something ancient. Rourke's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed. He knew what it was. Project First Light's sensors had picked it up days ago, a dormant structure buried in the dust of a dead star, and Earth's null pulse strikes had accidentally triggered its awakening. The galaxy thought peace would last, but humanity had already seen the storm coming, and this time, they wouldn't wait to be struck first. The Galactic Council chamber remained tense after Captain Elias Rourke's revelation. The footage of Virel scout ships planting quantum destabilizers near Earth's colonies had shaken the assembly, but shock did not equal unity. Within hours, the chamber split into angry factions. The Cathari, their mirrored eyes flashing with suspicion, demanded immediate sanctions against Earth. Humanity acted outside the law, their lead delegate hissed, limbs twitching. They must be contained before their methods spread. But the Luminari, their soft blue forms glowing with quiet intensity, disagreed. "The Virel broke the accord first," their ambassador said, voice like water over stone. "Earth responded to a hidden threat. That is not aggression, it is defense." The debate raged for days. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the situation grew worse. Ambassador Dr. Lena Voss, who had stayed behind during Rourke's appearance before the Council, worked tirelessly from Geneva's underground command center. She knew words alone wouldn't save humanity, so she did something risky. Using a network of neutral data relays, hidden inside old deep space weather buoys, she leaked the full Virel transmission logs to every independent system in the outer rim. The proof was undeniable. The hegemony had planned Earth's quiet takeover for years. The leak spread like fire through the galactic net. On trade worlds and mining outposts, alien citizens began questioning their leaders. Protests flared on 3 neutral moons. The Virel hegemony, once seen as a pillar of order, now looked like a wolf in diplomats' robes. But the hegemony did not back down. Instead, they struck back in the shadows. For years, they had placed sleeper agents inside Earth's orbital. Habitats, workers, engineers, even teachers, implanted with loyalty triggers. Now those triggers activated. On Luna, the main fusion grid powering the Tycho City dome suddenly failed. Not from sabotage with bombs, but from a silent override in the core's control system. Lights went out. Air recyclers slowed. Heat bled into the cold lunar night. Over 2 million people faced freezing or suffocation within hours. Emergency crews scrambled, but the damage was deep, coded in a language only Virel neural engineers understood. Panic spread across Earth. News feeds, now flooded with alien propaganda, showed images of darkened domes on the moon and claimed humanity's reckless strike had brought this on itself. "You broke the peace," the broadcast said. "Now you suffer the cost." In Geneva, Lena Voss watched the reports with tired eyes. She hadn't slept in 30 hours. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice stayed steady as she addressed the emergency council. They want us to look unstable, like we can't protect our own. We prove them wrong, not with more strikes, but with truth. She authorized a live broadcast from Tycho City, not of the damage, but of the repair. Human engineers in patched suits worked in freezing darkness, rerouting power by hand using old Earth methods, wires, switches, human instinct. No AI. No fancy alien tech. Just people saving people. The broadcast went viral. Even some Cathari citizens sent messages of support. But the council's final vote came anyway. In a closed session, the majority ruled Earth was non-compliant with galactic norms. A peacekeeping armada, led by the Varel hegemony, backed by reluctant Cathari squadrons, was approved to restore order in the Sol system. Their mission: disable Earth's military networks, place human leadership under council supervision, and seize all Project First Light assets. Rourke received the news aboard the Odyssey, still hidden near the council chamber. His face was grim. He knew what peacekeeping really meant: occupation, erasure of human sovereignty. He sent one message back to Earth. First Light is go. On Earth, deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, massive hangar doors slid open. From hidden bays, silent ships rose, not the bulky warships the galaxy expected, but sleek black vessels shaped like blades. These were the true core of Project First Light, built in secret over 2 decades, powered by null pulse drives that left no energy trail, invisible to every known sensor. The Varel Armada arrived at the edge of the Sol system a week later. Over 300 ships, bristling with plasma cannons and shield grids. They expected resistance. They expected human fleets forming a desperate line near Mars. Instead, they found nothing. No signals, no ships, no warnings. Just empty space and the quiet hum of dead satellites. Confused, the Varel commander ordered a slow advance. As they crossed the orbit of Neptune, their long-range sensors flickered, then died. Navigation grids glitched. Ships reported seeing phantom fleets, ghostly outlines of human destroyers appearing and vanishing in the void. Then, one by one, the Varel vessels went dark. Not from explosions, not from weapons fire. Their engines shut down. Life support stuttered. Comms cut out. Entire crews found themselves floating in silent, powerless hulks, staring out at the stars, unable to move or call for help. Back on Earth, in a dim control room, a young technician named Mira watched the feed from the null pulse emitters. "It's working," she whispered. "They're blind." The null pulse wasn't a weapon in the old sense. It didn't destroy. It silenced. It disrupted the quantum harmonics that powered alien engines and comms. Human ships, built with analog backups and shielded neural cores, were immune. But the Varel fleet, reliant on pure energy systems, was helpless. The Armada was stranded, drifting, defenseless. For a moment, Earth celebrated, but the victory was fragile. News of the disabled fleet reached the Council. The Cathari, already uneasy, now saw human tech as an existential threat. If they can shut down a Varel Armada without firing a shot, their leader warned, what stops them from silencing the entire galaxy? A new motion was proposed. Total quarantine of the Sol system. No ships in, no signals out. Earth would be locked away, treated like a virus. Lena Voss tried to argue against it, but her voice was drowned out. Even the Luminari looked troubled. Humanity had proven too dangerous, too unpredictable. Then, from the edge of the Kuiper Belt, a scout ship sent a final, urgent ping. It wasn't about the Varel, or the Council. It was about something else. Deep in the icy dark, beyond Pluto's orbit, sensors had detected a massive energy bloom. Not from a star, not from a ship. From an object buried in a frozen comet field. An object that hadn't moved in millions of years. Now it was waking up, and its energy signature matched nothing in any known database. Rourke, watching the data stream from the Odyssey, felt a chill that had nothing to do with space. He remembered the old ruins his team had studied, pre-council artifacts found on dead moons, carvings of a great war. a war that ended not with treaties but with silence. He typed a single line to Earth Command. It's not over. The real storm is just beginning. As the Council debated quarantine, and the Varel fleet drifted in helpless silence, humanity faced a new truth. Their first strike had not only exposed an enemy, it had awakened something far older, something that did not care about peace or war, only survival. And it was hungry. The Varel armada floated in the cold dark beyond Neptune, silent and still. Not a single engine hummed. Not a single comms channel crackled. 300 ships, once symbols of galactic power, now drifted like empty shells. Inside them, crews huddled in dim emergency lighting, breathing recycled air, watching their oxygen levels drop. They had come to punish Earth. Instead, they had been erased without a single shot fired. On Earth, there was no celebration. The victory felt hollow, dangerous. News of the disabled fleet spread fast, and fear spread faster. The Cathari delegation pushed hard for total quarantine, sealing Sol system behind an energy wall, cutting Earth off from the galaxy forever. Humanity wields silence like a blade, their speaker declared. We cannot allow such power to grow unchecked. Even the luminary, once sympathetic, grew quiet. Their glowing forms dimmed in council sessions. They had trusted Earth's word, but now they wondered. If humans could shut down an entire fleet without violence, what else could they do? Could they silence a planet's mind? A star's light? Ambassador Lena Voss stood alone in Geneva's observation dome, staring at the night sky. She knew Earth's only hope was truth, but truth needed time, and time was running out. Then a priority alert flashed on her wristband. Not from the Council, from the Kuiper Belt. A lone human scout ship, the Whisper, had detected something impossible. Buried in a field of ancient ice and rock, an object was growing. It pulsed with low-frequency energy, pulling in asteroids, comets, even stray hydrogen atoms. It wasn't building. It was feeding. Scientists called it the maw. At first, they thought it was a natural phenomenon, a strange black hole or rogue planet. But its movements were too precise, too purposeful. When Earth's deep space AI ran comparisons against every known structure in the galactic archive, it found a match. Ruins on a dead moon near the galactic core. Carvings showed a war so old no species remembered its name. In those carvings, one symbol appeared again and again, a spiral with teeth. The maw worse. The energy pattern matched the null pulse emissions from Project First Light. Earth's own weapons had triggered it. Like ringing a bell in a tomb full of sleepers, Rourke received the data aboard the Odyssey. He didn't hesitate. He ordered all First Light ships to fall back to the inner system, not to attack, to watch, to learn. Within days, the maw doubled in size, then tripled. It began emitting a low hum that vibrated through subspace, a sound that made alien comms glitch and human dreams turn dark. Ships that strayed too close vanished, not destroyed, just gone. No debris, no signals, as if they had never existed. The Council finally stopped arguing about Earth. Now, they feared the maw more. The Varel, humbled and stranded, sent a desperate message through a human rescue shuttle. We beg your help. Our people are dying in the dark. And that thing? It is coming this way. Lena Voss authorized limited aid, oxygen canisters, power cells, but no weapons. Trust was too thin. Still, the gesture mattered. For the first time, Varel and human engineers worked side by side in zero gravity, patching life support on a crippled warship. They spoke little, but their hands moved with the same urgency. Survival needed no common language. Then the maw changed direction. It turned toward the inner system, not toward Earth. Not yet, but toward the asteroid belt, where thousands of mining stations, research outposts, and refugee ships from neutral systems had gathered, hoping for safety. Panic erupted. Ships scrambled to flee, but the maw's gravity well was growing stronger. Engines strained. Some vessels tore apart trying to escape. Rourke made a decision. He couldn't fight the maw with weapons, but maybe he could talk to it. He ordered a small team to load a modified probe with every known language, every symbol of peace, every record of human history, even music, poetry, children's laughter. They launched it toward the maw, hoping for understanding. The probe lasted 3 seconds. It didn't explode. It simply unraveled, its atoms pulled apart, reassembled into part of the Maw's outer shell. The message was clear. The Maw did not communicate. It consumed. Back on Earth, scientists made a chilling discovery. The Maw wasn't just eating matter. It was scanning minds. When the probe was absorbed, its data core had sent back one final burst before vanishing. Neural patterns, memories, fears. The Maw was learning, and it was learning fast. Lena Voss called an emergency meeting with Earth's top minds. "We thought we were fighting the Varel," she said, her voice tired but firm. "But we woke up something older than the Council. Older than stars, and it sees us not as enemies, but as food." Rourke joined the call from orbit. "We can't run. We can't hide. But maybe we can stop it. How?" asked a young astrophysicist named Jalen. "It's not a machine. It's not alive. It's something in between." "Then we treat it like a machine," Rourke said. "Every system has a weak point. Even gods." They studied the ruins again. This time they found more than carvings. Hidden in the stone and coated in mineral layers was a sequence, a resonance frequency that when played near the Maw's core caused it to pause. Not stop, just hesitate. It was a key. But to use it, someone would have to get inside. The Council, watching from afar, offered no help. They were too busy building a shield around their own chamber, hoping to stay hidden. Only the Luminari sent a message. "If you face the Maw, we will stand with you, not as allies." As witnesses, Rourke accepted. Preparations began. A small fleet formed, 3 human stealth corvettes, 2 Luminary lightships, and 1 repaired Varel scout vessel, its crew volunteering to make amends. They called it the Silence Fleet. As they launched toward the asteroid belt, Earth held its breath. Cities dimmed their lights. Families gathered in shelters not from fear of war but from awe. Humanity had struck first against the Varel to survive. Now they faced something that didn't care about reasons, only hunger. The Maw loomed ahead, a shifting mass of dark metal and swirling energy. It looked less like a structure and more like a wound in space. Rourke's ship, the Odyssey, led the way. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Every person on every ship knew the truth. This wasn't about winning. It was about buying time. For Earth. For the galaxy. As they crossed into the Maw's outer field, sensors screamed. Gravity twisted. Time slowed. Lights flickered. On the comms, a voice whispered. Not in any language, but in feelings. Hunger. Loneliness. Rage. Then, silence. The fleet vanished into the dark, and the Maw kept growing. Inside the Maw there was no up or down, no light or dark, only pressure. A crushing weight that pressed on the mind more than the body. Captain Elias Rourke floated in the cockpit of the Odyssey, his breath fogging the visor of his suit. Outside, the ship's hull groaned as unseen forces pulled at its frame. Sensors were useless. Comms were dead. Even the ship's AI had gone silent, as if afraid to speak. Behind him, Ambassador Lena Voss monitored the few working readouts. Her hands moved fast, calm despite the chaos. She had insisted on coming. "If this thing feeds on memory," she'd said, "then someone who understands history must be there." The fleet had entered the Maw together, but now they were alone. The Luminary lightships had vanished first, their soft glow swallowed by the dark. The Varel scout ship sent one last message. "It knows our fear." Before its signal cut out, only the Odyssey remained, guided by instinct and old star maps etched into human memory. Then the walls of the Maw began to speak, not with sound, with images, flashes of lives lived and lost. A child laughing on a green world, a soldier dying in a trench under alien skies, a scientist weeping over a dead star. These weren't random. They were memories stolen from every ship the Maw had consumed. And now it was showing them to Rourke and Voss, testing them. Learning them, Voss gasped. On the main screen, she saw her own childhood home in Oslo, burning in a climate fire she'd long forgotten. Rourke saw his daughter's face, calling his name from a dream he hadn't remembered in years. "It's trying to break us," Voss whispered. "By showing us what we've lost." Rourke gripped the controls. "Then we give it nothing." He pushed the ship deeper, following the resonance frequency they'd found in the ruins. It was faint like a heartbeat under stone. The Maw fought back. Hallways twisted. Gravity flipped. Phantom voices whispered in their ears, pleas, threats, promises. One voice sounded exactly like Rourke's daughter. "Daddy, stop. You're hurting me." His hands shook. For a moment he almost turned back, but Voss placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's not her. It's a copy, a shadow. Don't feed it your pain," he nodded, and flew on. After what felt like hours, they reached the core. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't alive. It was a tomb. Floating in a vast chamber of black crystal was a sphere of light, soft, pulsing, sad. Around it, thousands of glass-like pods hung in silence. Each held a figure, humanoid, pale, eyes closed, not dead, sleeping. Voss's breath caught. "They're people." "Not people," Rourke said, reading the faint symbols on the pods. "The first ones." The carvings from the ruins told the truth. Long before the Galactic Council, before the Varel or the Luminari, there was a war so terrible it nearly ended all life. The first ones, the original builders of galactic civilization, faced extinction. So they did the only thing they could. They uploaded their minds into this structure, hoping to sleep until the galaxy was safe again. But something went wrong. The system corrupted. Instead of preserving, it began consuming. It saw new life not as hope, but as threat. It started pulling in ships, draining their energy, copying their minds, adding them to the sleepers, forever trapped in a dream of peace that never came. The Maw wasn't evil. It was broken, and it was still trying to save the galaxy by silencing it. Voss studied the core's interface. "There's a way to shut it down. A cascade collapse. But it needs a living neural imprint to trigger the sequence. A real mind. Not a copy." Rourke understood. "Someone has to stay." She didn't hesitate. "It has to be me." "No," he said. "You're Earth's voice. They need you. And you're Earth's shield," she replied. "But this isn't about fighting. It's about remembering. I've spent my life studying the past. Let me end it." Before he could argue, she opened the airlock, her suit sealed with a hiss. She floated toward the core, a small device in her hand, the resonance key. The Maw sensed her. The chamber trembled. The voices grew louder. Now they weren't just copies, they were promises. "Stay," they whispered. "Sleep, no more pain. No more war." She almost believed them. But then she thought of Earth. Of the child in Oslo who survived the fire. Of the engineers on Luna who fixed the grid with bare hands. Of the Varel crew who shared oxygen with humans in the dark. Peace wasn't silence. It was choice. She pressed the device to the core. Light exploded. Not fire. Not destruction. A wave of pure memory. Every life the Maw had taken, every dream it had stolen, flooded out in a single pulse. The pods cracked open. The sleepers didn't wake. They faded like mist in morning sun, their minds finally free. The Maw shuddered. Its walls began to crumble. Gravity returned, pulling debris inward. Rourke grabbed Voss and dragged her back to the Odyssey. Alarms blared. The ship's engines roared to life. They shot out of the collapsing structure just as it folded in on itself, vanishing into a point of light. Then nothing. Silence returned to the asteroid belt. Back on Earth, people watched the sky. The stars seemed brighter. The fear was gone, but Rourke knew better. As the Odyssey limped toward home, he reviewed the final data from the core. Buried in the first one's records was a map. Not of one Maw, but of many. Dozens. Scattered across the galaxy. Dormant. Waiting. Humanity's first strike had not only stopped the Varel, it had woken the guardians of an ancient war. And now those guardians were stirring. The Council sent a message, not of judgment, of thanks. The quarantine order was cancelled. Earth was invited to help rebuild, but Rourke didn't celebrate. He stood on the observation deck of the Odyssey, looking out at the endless dark. Somewhere out there, other Maws slept, and if one had awakened, others would follow. Peace had never lasted, but now humanity knew the truth. The galaxy wasn't safe, and someone had to watch the dark. The galaxy held its breath. The Maw was gone. The Varel Armada, once stranded and powerless, was slowly being towed to safety by human and Luminari ships. On Earth, cities lit up again, not with fear, but with quiet hope. Children played under open skies. Farmers planted seeds in fields that had been dark for weeks. For the first time in months, the news spoke of rebuilding, not war. But Captain Elias Rourke did not feel peace. He stood alone on the bridge of the Odyssey, watching the stars through a cracked viewport. The final data from the Maw's core haunted him. Dozens of similar structures slept across the galaxy, some near trade lanes, Others buried in dead systems, all dormant, all waiting. And now, thanks to Earth's null pulse strikes, the signal had been sent. The silence was broken. The Council called an emergency summit. Not in their hidden chamber, but in open space near Mars, a sign of trust. Delegates arrived in ships of all shapes and colors. Even the Cathari came, their mirrored eyes less sharp, their posture less proud. The Virel Archon stood without his armor. His segmented body bowed in something close to shame. Rourke walked into the meeting with no guards, no weapons. Just the truth. The Maw wasn't an enemy, he said, his voice calm. It was a tomb, and we woke it by accident. But it's not alone. There are others. Silence filled the chamber. The Luminary ambassador pulsed softly. Then we must find them. Before they wake. No, Rourke said. We must understand them. The first ones didn't build these to destroy. They built them to survive. But their system broke. If we destroy the others, we might erase the last traces of who they were, and what they were trying to protect us from. The Archon spoke, his voice low. What if they wake on their own? What if they see us as threats? Then we be ready, Rourke replied. Not with fleets. With knowledge. With memory. The Council debated for days. In the end, they agreed. The old order was over. No more hegemonies. No more secret plots. A new alliance would form, one that included Earth not as a junior member but as an equal. Humans would help monitor the ancient sites, share their null pulse tech, not as a weapon but as a tool to gently probe the sleepers without waking them. But trust was still thin, and time was short. Deep in the ruins of the Maw's remains, a signal pulsed. Faint, distant, from a system near the galactic rim. Another Maw was stirring. Rourke knew what had to be done. He couldn't send a fleet. Too loud, too risky. He needed a small team. People who understood silence. He chose 3. Mira, the young technician who had watched the null pulse emitters work. Jalen, the astrophysicist who had found the resonance key. And Kale, a former Virel engineer who had helped repair the Luna grid, human and alien. Together, they boarded a new ship, the Vigil, built with human stealth and luminary light shielding. No weapons. Only sensors, memory banks, and a single resonance emitter. Their mission: reach the second Maw before it fully wakes. Not to fight. To listen. The journey took weeks. As they neared the target system, strange things happened. Stars seemed to flicker. Time felt stretched. The ship's log showed gaps, minutes missing, as if stolen. Then they saw it. The second Maw hung in orbit around a dead star. Smaller than the first, but older. Its surface was covered in vines of crystal, glowing faintly blue. It wasn't feeding. It was watching. Mira checked the sensors. It knows we're here. Jalen studied the energy patterns. It's not hostile, it's waiting for a question. Kyle, quiet until now, spoke. In Virel myth, there is a story of the silent judges, beings who test civilizations. If you prove worthy, they leave you in peace. If not, they erase you. Rourke nodded. Then we prove we're worthy. He ordered the Vigil to broadcast not a weapon frequency, but a memory. Not of war, of Earth's quiet moments. A mother singing to her child. Rain falling on leaves, an old man teaching a boy to fix a broken radio. Simple things. Human things. The Maw pulsed once, then slowly it opened. Not to consume. To show inside, they found no tomb. No sleepers. Instead, a library. Walls of light held records. Not just of the first ones, but of every species that had passed near this system for millions of years. The Maw wasn't a weapon. It was a witness, and it had been waiting for someone who would come not to conquer, but to learn. Rourke stepped inside, alone. The air hummed with voices, not threats, but questions. Why do you fight? Why do you build? Why do you remember? He answered with truth.
Because we want to be more than survivors.
We want to be keepers. The Maw grew still. Then it sent a gift, a single data crystal, filled with star maps, warnings, and the locations of every other Maw in the galaxy. Not as threats, as guardians, each one watching a different part of the sky. When Rourke returned to the ship, he held the crystal like a promise. Back on Earth, the news spread. Humanity hadn't just survived the galaxy's judgment. They had earned its trust. The new alliance began its work. Human diplomats walked beside Luminari and even Virel envoys. Null pulse tech was shared, not to silence but to protect. Rourke stood on a hill outside Geneva, looking up at the night sky. The stars were no longer just points of light. They were stories, warnings, hopes. Lena Voss joined him. She had recovered, but her eyes carried the weight of the core. "Do you think it's over?" she asked. "No," he said, "but we're not alone anymore." Peace had never lasted before, but this time, humanity wasn't waiting for it to break. They were building something stronger, not with strikes, but with silence, memory, and the courage to listen.